The painted smile, the carnival rolled into town without warning. No flyers, no radio ads, no cheerful announcements in the paper. One morning, the empty lot by the river was bare, and by nightfall, it was alive with tents, strings of crooked lights, and the distant wheeze of a calliope that played a tune just slightly out of key. Ethan Miller, 17, and bored to death of his small town, was the first of his friends to suggest they sneak in. "It's free," he grinned, "and it beats another Friday at the gas station parking lot." They went in a group of 5. The carnival smelled of burnt sugar and damp canvas, the kind of sweetness that stuck in the throat. The rides were old, their paint peeling, their lights flickering weakly. Shadows seemed longer there, as if the bulbs couldn't quite push them away. And everywhere they turned, they saw him. The clown. He didn't juggle, didn't hand out balloons. He just stood among the crowds, or what passed for crowds. Ethan realized quickly that he hadn't seen many faces at all, just blurs in the corners of his eyes. But the clown was always sharp, always clear. He wore tattered red and white stripes, his oversized shoes scuffed and soaked from the damp grass. His face paint wasn't cheerful, it was smeared in harsh streaks of black and crimson, his grin drawn to wide. His eyes were what froze Ethan each time. Yellow, like candle flames burning down to the wick. "Man, Hayes creepy," whispered Ryan, one of Ethan's friends. "Why is he just staring at us?" The clown tilted his head then, as if head heard. Slowly, he raised his hand. Not a wave, a beckoning. They laughed nervously and turned away. But each time they entered a new tent, be it the House of Mirrors, the fortune teller's draped parlor, or the Ferris wheel whose rust groaned louder than its motor, the clown was there first, waiting. By the third sighting, no one was laughing. When Ethan suggested leaving, they found the exit gone. The gate they'd walked through was now another row of tents, their flaps closed, the calliope music louder, almost frantic. "Okay, this is a joke," Marcy said, voice trembling. "They're messing with us." But then came the smell. Underneath the burnt sugar and damp canvas, something else drifted, coppery, metallic, unmistakable. The smell of blood. The clown stepped into the string of weak lights, closer now. His painted grin gleamed wet. His shoes left dark prints on the grass. In one hand, he carried a balloon, black, its string frayed. In the other, a knife, long, rusted, and dripping. The balloon bobbed gently as he moved. The knife didn't run. Ethan whispered. They did. The carnival didn't end. No matter how many tents they passed, no matter how many corners they turned, the light stretched on. The calliope screamed, and the clown's footsteps followed, slow, deliberate. And when Ethan dared to glance back, he realized something worse. The clown wasn't chasing all of them. He was following him. Ethan's lungs burned as they tore through the twisting lanes of tents. His friends shouted behind him, voices fractured by fear, echoing strangely in the carnival air. "Over here," Ryan yelled, veering toward a striped pavilion. The group stumbled inside, canvas walls swaying around them. The tent was filled with mannequins in circus costumes, their painted smiles cracked, their glass eyes staring. The smell of dust and rot clung thick to the air. "Hide," Marcy whispered. She shoved Ethan behind a row of mannequins dressed as acrobats. The others crouched behind a toppled popcorn cart. The music outside slowed, each note of the calliope dragging like a scream in molasses. And then footsteps. Clomp, clomp. The clown's shoes pressed into the damp grass outside the tent. The flap lifted. He entered. The lanterns inside flickered to life on their own, casting an orange glow. Shadows leapt across the mannequins, and for a sickening moment, Ethan couldn't tell which painted smiles belonged to the dolls and which belonged to him. The clown dragged the knife along the canvas wall as he walked, the blade tearing a thin, shrieking line. He hummed, low and tuneless, and the mannequins seemed to lean toward the sound. Marcy stifled a sob. The clown's head snapped in her direction. He moved fast for something so ungainly. 1 second, he was across the tent. The next, he loomed over her, the balloon bobbing above his shoulder, his yellow eyes burning. The knife came down. Marcy's scream was cut short, swallowed by the music, that surged suddenly louder, filling every corner of the tent. Blood splattered across the popcorn cart. Ethan's heart stopped. He couldn't move. Ryan grabbed his arm, yanking him up. Go, now. They bolted through the back flap of the tent into another row of carnival stalls. This time, Ethan didn't look back. He didn't need to. He could hear the clown's laugh, wet, gurgling, bubbling up from somewhere deep in his chest as he followed. Ryan cursed under his breath. He's not stopping, he's not stopping. Keep running. Ethan gasped, but as they turned a corner, Ethan skidded to a halt. The carnival stretched on forever. Tents and lights, stalls and rides, repeated endlessly into the horizon, as if the entire world had become this nightmare. And in every stall, behind every cracked mirror, in every swaying Ferris wheel car, Ethan saw Itty the clown. Dozens of him, hundreds, each with the same smeared paint, the same knife, the same balloon, all smiling. Ryan grabbed Ethan's wrist and yanked him forward before the shock could root him in place. Don't look at them, just keep going. But it was impossible not to look. Each clown mirrored the same frozen stance, heads tilted, knives glinting under the crook lights. Some stood in rides, some behind carnival games, some crouched among shadowed stalls. Their balloons bobbed in unison, strings twitching as though caught in a single invisible breath. And as Ethan and Ryan ran deeper, the clowns turned their heads together, following, not moving yet. The boys burst into a wide clearing, where the carnival tents opened into what looked like the main stage. A rickety grandstand rose on either side, rows of empty benches sagging with rot. In the center, under a spotlight that hummed faintly, stood a small wooden platform. On it lay Jenna. Her wrists were bound to the edges of the platform with rope, her head lolled to the side. Blood smeared her shirt in thick streaks. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. She was alive, but only just. Jesus Christ, Ryan whispered, stumbling forward. The spotlight above flickered. Ethan's gaze darted to the shadows, dread curling in his gut. Ryan too late. The spotlight went out. For a moment, there was only darkness. And then, pop. The sound of a balloon bursting echoed from the stands. Then another. Then another. One by one, the clowns stepped out of the shadows, knives glinting, their grins stretching wide. Hundreds of them, closing in. Ryan raised a broken chair leg like a weapon, shouting hoarsely. Ethan grabbed at Jenna's ropes, his fingers slippery with her blood, panic blinding him. The calliope shrieked back to life. The tune sped up now, frantic, discordant, and in the noise, Ethan realized something. Every clown had his face, his own eyes, his own mouth smeared into that painted grin. Copies of himself, endless, circling closer. Jenna's eyes fluttered open. Her lips moved. Ethan bent closer, desperate. She whispered one word, not a plea, not a name. Run. The clowns surged. Ethan's hands slipped from Jenna's ropes as the circle of clowns closed in. Their footsteps were perfectly synchronized. Clomp, 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 each thud like a nail hammered into his skull. Ryan swung the chair leg at the nearest one. The wood splintered against its chest, but the clown didn't even flinch. It just tilted its head, yellow eyes burning, and drove its knife into Ryan's gut. The sound was wet. Ryan gasped, dropping to his knees, his mouth spilling blood instead of words. No, Ethan screamed, stumbling backward, but there was nowhere to go. The grandstands were packed with clowns now, shoulder to shoulder, their painted grins gleaming in the light. The spotlight snapped back on, so bright it seared his vision, trapping him in its circle. Jenna was sobbing weakly. Ethan reached for her, but her skin was already going cold beneath his touch. The ropes had bitten deep into her wrists far too tight, as if the carnival itself didn't want her to leave. The calliope music shifted again, slowed, deepened, and over it, a single laugh rose above the others, low, guttural, wet. The first clown. He stepped onto the platform, towering over Ethan, balloon in one hand, knife in the other. His grin stretched, so wide now that his skin split at the corners, black ichor trickling down his chin. Ethan swung wildly, punching, clawing, desperate. The clown didn't even block, he simply leaned in close, close enough that Ethan could see his own reflection in those yellow eyes. And what he saw wasn't himself anymore. It was a clown. Same face paint, same grin, same eyes. No, Ethan whispered, shaking his head violently. No, that's not me. That's not me. The clown pressed the balloon into his chest. It throbbed, as though it had a heartbeat. Ethan gasped as something surged through him. His lungs seized, his skin burned, his jaw locked, his lips twitched upward against his will. His mouth stretched, wider, wider, until his scream turned into a laugh. The ropes binding Jenna snapped, and she fell limp to the platform. The clowns didn't touch her. She no longer mattered. All eyes were on Ethan. He stood, balloon string wrapped around his wrist, knife heavy in his hand. His painted grin glistened wet in the spotlight. The crowd of clowns erupted into applause. Hundreds of white-gloved hands clapping, knives glinting, balloons bouncing in rhythm. The carnival music swelled to a fever pitch, and Ethan laughed with them. The carnival lights blinked out. When they returned, the stage was gone. The grandstands were empty. The smell of blood and rot lingered, but the clowns had vanished as if they'd never been. Ethan stood alone in the middle of a dirt lot by the river. No tents, no rides, no music, just silence and fog curling over the grass. The balloon bobbed at his wrist. The knife dripped onto the soil. His chest heaved. His grin wouldn't fade, it felt carved into his skin now. He clawed at his mouth until blood welled beneath his nails, but the smile only grew wider. Behind him, something rustled. He turned, knife instinctively raised. Ryan, or what was left of him. His body twitched, limbs bending like a marionette yanked by tangled strings. His eyes were pale, lips painted into a crude red grin. He shambled toward Ethan, movements jerky and wrong. Jenna lay sprawled in the grass nearby, staring up at the night sky with glassy eyes. Her chest rose once barely before going still. Ethan's laughter bubbled up again, unbidden. It spilled out of him in harsh, broken gasps, until it wasn't laughter at all, but something closer to choking. Then, faintly, the calliope returned, not in the distance, not from tents or speakers. From inside his head, the melody rattled in his skull, faster, sharper, until every pulse of sound throbbed behind his eyes. He clutched his head, dropped to his knees, and when he looked up, the carnival had returned. The tents unfolded out of the fog. The Ferris wheel creaked back into existence, its cars swaying with invisible weight. Strings of lights blinked into place, stretching overhead in a crooked canopy, and waiting just beyond the first row of tents families. Children, dozens of them, wandering into the lot as if drawn by some invisible hand. They smiled, they laughed, they pointed at the rides. None of them saw the blood dripping from Ethan's knife. None of them saw the clown's painted grin plastered across his face. The balloon bobbed once in the night air. The carnival had reopened, and now he was part of it. The first to wander into the lights was a little boy, maybe 8, maybe 9. His sneakers dragged in the gravel as he tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, look, a carnival." His mother frowned. The lot had been empty every night she drove home from work, but tonight the smell of popcorn hung in the air. Music soft, tinny drifted from the shadows, and her son's eyes sparkled with excitement she hadn't seen in months. "All right," she sighed, smiling weakly. Just for a little while, they stepped beneath the crooked string of lights. Inside, the carnival looked alive, too alive. The Ferris wheel creaked, its car swaying though no one had boarded. The game stalls gleamed with prizes, plush toys, glassy-eyed dolls, gaudy masks all too new, too untouched for a place this weathered. The boy ran ahead. "I wanna play, I wanna play." And that was when he saw him. The clown stood behind the milk bottle game. His painted grin glistened under the bulbs, his balloon drifting lazily above his shoulder. In his other hand was a wooden ball. He tossed it once, caught it, and held it out to the boy. "Wanna try?" The clown rasped, voice low and wet, like it came from somewhere deeper than his chest. The boy hesitated. His mother frowned. Something about the clown's eyes too sharp, too yellow made her stomach knot. "We should go," she whispered, reaching for her son's arm. But the boy had already taken the ball. He held it at the bottles, They clattered down easily, too easily. A cheer burst from the shadows, faint at first but building until the air itself vibrated with applause. The stands were filling. Clowns clapped in unison, their grins glowing in the dark. The boy turned, startled. "Mom!" Her hand gripped his wrist tight. Too tight. Her nails dug into his skin. He looked up at her and froze. Her mouth was stretching, her lips splitting into that same painted grin. Her eyes glowed yellow under the lights. "Mom!" he whimpered. The clown leaned across the stall, grinning so wide his cheeks split. He handed the boy a balloon. Black, heavy. The string coiled around his wrist like a shackle. "Now you belong," the clown whispered. The calliope music swelled, and somewhere beyond the tents, Ethan watched, laughing, screaming, unable to tell which was which as the carnival swallowed its next family whole. The carnival thrived, night after night. New faces wandered in, families, couples, drifters, each lured by the crooked lights and the promise of wonder. And every night, the same story unfolded. Laughter curdling into screams, faces splitting into painted grins, balloons bobbing like black hearts in the dark. Ethan became the centerpiece, the carnival's star. At first, he fought. He begged the victims not to play, not to take the prizes, not to listen to the music. But the words never came out the way he meant them. They spilled from his throat as snarling laughter, as mocking invitations, as the same whisper the clown had once spoken to him. "Wanna try?" The more he fought, the more the carnival consumed him. His hands no longer obeyed him. His legs moved when the music swelled. His knife rose and fell in rhythm with the calliope's shrieking tune. Until one night, when the lot stood empty again. No families, no children, no prey. The clowns gathered in silence, ringed around the stage. The air reeked of copper and rot. Ethan stood at the center, balloon string cutting deep into his wrist, knife dripping onto the boards. The first clown stepped forward. His grin was cracked wider than ever, skin flayed at the edges. He leaned close, whispering in Ethan's ear, "You've done well, but every carnival needs a leader." The spotlight snapped on. The crowd of clowns erupted in applause, hundreds, thousands, their painted smiles gleaming. And as Ethan bowed, unable to stop himself, he realized the truth. The carnival would never leave him, because he was the carnival now. When the lights blinked out, the lot fell silent once more. Only damp grass and fog under the moon. But in the distance, faint and growing louder, came the wheeze of a calliope. The carnival was moving on, searching for the next town, searching for the next victims. And at its heart, laughing louder than them all, was Ethan the clown in the painted smile. The end.